What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. I'm super excited. I'm super pumped. It's Monday. We're bringing it. Jordan Foote coming on to start the week out. Just absolutely a banger. I'm ready to do this, man. You got a new title. You're deputy editor over there at SI Chiefs. Obviously, you're taking over, roughing the kicker. You're already up for an ESPY, man. I mean, what is going on over there? You're already going for awards. This is incredible. Give us the rundown real quick on just what's going on with that.
Man, thanks for having me on first and foremost. I'm always excited to come back on. The first time I was on the show was great. Just really, so Tucker Franklin, shout out to Tucker Franklin. He went Hollywood on the Kansas City sports media landscape. So with that, he left the deputy editor position with SI Chiefs open. So I'm taking over that and kind of doing the podcasting stuff. Once the season starts, it'll be a daily podcast Monday through Friday, which will be fun. Just kind of accepting that more responsibility has been a ton of fun, and getting to peek behind the curtain a little bit more. So that's great. I have a couple other things in the works. So just really excited to continue, this whole Kansas City media landscape. It's a pretty unique place, man.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, congratulations. I think it's incredible. And, for me, just entering into this, it's kind of amazing to see people around you already having, success and moving forward and doing things. So again, congratulations. And, I was always glad that you reached back out to me when I reached out to you. And I think it's incredible to see your advancements and what you're doing for sure.
Yeah, likewise, man. The channel's blown up, dude. I'm jealous because I have another YouTube channel. We're doing like a NBA draft stuff, and it's been tough getting getting it off the ground is the hardest part. But like, you just have to be relentless in publishing videos and getting unique perspectives, dude. And you've been killing that so far. So hats off.
Thank you. Much appreciated, for real. So that leads me into this first go, man. I'm excited to talk to you about this. I've been working on my game as well. I posted some pictures the other day on Twitter. We're going to start this off with grilling. We're entering into summer. That's what it's about. Number one, have to give you some mad props. Your cheeseburgers look like they should have been in a commercial, man. The cheese was like perfectly melted. I don't know what you did, but holy smokes. I immediately was like, I got to go start grilling. So, have you just started? Are you getting into it? What's going on with the grilling aspect?
Yeah, man, I'm relatively new. So last summer was the first time I finally splurged. During COVID, I bought a charcoal grill, like one of the cheap, like probably $79 ones from I think it was Lowe's or Home Depot or something. I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And those are just hard for me, get started and then keep the temperature. Like, they're probably the best, like, taste wise, you get the most out of it. But did that probably 4 or 5 times over the summer. And then my dad was moving from his house to an apartment. He gave us his gas grill. So I was like, oh, cool. Now I have like a big boy grill I can mess around with. So that was my first time using it. Got some burgers down, brats, hot dogs, all that good stuff. So trying to fully embrace the dad mode. I grilled in pants and I got roasted for that on Twitter. And I also was wearing Nike sneakers instead of the Air Monarchs or New Balances or whatever. So, man, it's a good time. I still have a lot left to learn, but there's nothing better than just going out and cooking up some food and being able to eat edible, non-burnt, good grill food.
Oh yeah, for sure. Only thing I would say, take it up a step, is I have to go out there with one of those pocket things, and it's got to have a thermometer in there, so you can always be ready to plug it in there and see where you're at on temperature. But yeah, man, it looked tremendous. So that leads me to this next piece. You're going with a dog. We're going to say hot dog. What's your go-to condiment on the top?
Sometimes nothing. And I know that's probably kind of weird. Sometimes I just like the regular old hot dog. Now, I'm weird. If I'm eating an Italian sausage or something, I'll throw mustard on it. If I'm eating a brat, if it's like a cheddar brat, I don't put anything on it. That is enough for me. Just the cheese inside's great. If it's a hot dog, man, sometimes I'll go mustard, sometimes I'll go ketchup. I'm not a big relish guy myself. Yeah. So I saw someone, I wish I could put this person on blast. They tweeted ketchup, mustard, and barbecue sauce on their hot dog. And I was like, man, that's too much on the palate, going on at once. It's a lot. So either ketchup, mustard, or I'll just kind of leave it and enjoy it that way.
For sure. I think it all depends too on what kind of hot dog it is. Cause like when I would go to Kaufman when I was in college, I could easily put down 10 dogs and not have
Mhm.
anything on them. And I don't know if it's just the way it was, the way they did it. But, if I cook them at home, I feel like at times I have to have ketchup, but then there's a lot of times where I want mustard. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that too, man. It's that time of the year. I did some steaks last night and holy smokes, steaks are expensive. So, I took advantage of it, and yeah. So that leads me to another summertime event, and we're going to talk a little bit of golfing. I saw you went and did some 18 holes. What was your experience like? And give some advice, even for a first timer. I know you got some.
Man, no shame. I willingly like spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos of other people golfing. Like I've watched all the Tiger Woods tips. I've watched the Roy McIlroy tips. Rick Shields, he has a really good golf channel. I watch a lot of his stuff. Like obviously it doesn't translate to my game yet, and I still need to practice it quite a ton. But we have a local par three course out at Wyandotte County Lake, or Wyandotte County Park rather. I'll go out there and practice a little bit. So that's fun. But I went to Utah in, I guess it was mid to late June. It was like the 18th, so right in the middle of June, for a wedding. And that Saturday, after the wedding and all that stuff happened, me and a buddy went out and golfed, and it was a beautiful course. Like in Tule, Utah, just the mountains in the background. It was a picturesque kind of course. It was great. Just absolutely imploded, dude. It was the worst experience of my life. It was embarrassing. Luckily, we didn't get paired with anybody, so that was good. Had that happened, I probably would have like gotten thrown out. But I was hitting the ball onto other people's holes. I was like picking up other people's balls that I thought were mine. We were having people pass us. Like it was the most embarrassing thing, but I'm glad I did it. First four holes were 10, 9, 9, 8. And after that, my buddy was like, dude, it can't get worse. Like you're having fun. That's all that matters. You're throwing back some beers,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So the front nine, I think I carded a 72, or no, I carded a 70 on the front nine, which is absolutely horrible. The back nine was harder on the scorecard. Like a lot of those holes were rough, carded a 58. So I got better throughout the day. Just, I think laughing at yourself helps quite a bit because it's the most frustrating sport. If we were good, we'd be out on the tour, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So just kind of having fun with it definitely helped on that back nine and be like, dude, you suck. Just embrace the suck and go have some fun.
Yeah, man, you're actually probably right close to where I live because Sunflower is like my go-to course.
Okay.
And I go there all the time. And I absolutely love it, but I am terrible too. I get up on the tee box. The first one is real close to the clubhouse. People are out there watching you. And for me, every time it's full sand. And I got a baseball swing. I played baseball. So every time I hit a golf ball, it's going, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
And so the person that's always riding with me absolutely gets pissed off because they're like, Lucas, we're always in the woods looking for your ball. And it's like, well, I don't know what, but yeah, I usually shoot in the hundreds easily, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a way to get out. And, sometimes it's nice just to get around and walk around. And by the end, man, you drink a few beers, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go home and relax. But that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. And, at least it's fun to get out and do it for sure. So, but we're going to dive in. This weekend was loaded with sports activity. We had the UFC fights. We had some pretty big soccer matches. We have the NBA finals going on. Which one were you involved with the most? I know you're a huge basketball guy. You're starting to kind of get involved with some soccer. I saw you say you're jumping on with the UFC. So which one were you most engaged with this weekend?
Ironically, the NBA, I watched like 2 minutes of the game. Like I was
Really?
doing some podcasting and stuff, so I just didn't have time to. I'm the type of guy where I can't really have stuff in the background while I'm working. Like I have to devote my whole attention to it. So, um, like even if it's a podcast, like I'll find myself spacing out and only listening to the background stuff. So I had the game on and I watched like part of the first quarter, and then Phoenix took like a 28-23 lead. I was like, all right, I'm shutting this off, whatever. So I didn't watch much of that. I watched the quote unquote entire McGregor fight. I didn't watch any of the card. I was busy then. So I watched a little bit of that. Trying to get more into UFC. It seems like a really like untapped potential for me in terms of following sports. I watched the entire soccer match, dude, and I
Did
was
you?
pumped. I was locked in. I was like kind of understanding what was going on, which is fun. So, been watching quite a bit of soccer for the past month or so, and I'm finally starting to, okay, this is the advantage in PKs. This is what a yellow card is versus a red card, stuff like that. So, that was a great match. Italy just, as soon as England jumped out to that 1-0 lead after what 2 minutes of the match, I was like, man, I don't know about this. And then Italy finally settled in and got it going. So those PKs were intense. Personally, I don't like ending the game on PKs like that.
Yeah.
And I know some people will disagree. But it sucks that you go through that long of a match and then you have to do like an elementary thing like that. And ironically, it seemed to be the hardest thing they'd done all day.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was kind of up and down. I had to follow the fight on Twitter, and to see how the reaction was afterwards. I'm like, man, you always get that. You always get that response. It's always someone's out there like, well, I'm glad I didn't spend that money because it was terrible or something. You always get that, but I was kind of glad I didn't this time, just because those fights are built up so much, and then for it to just unfortunately end the way it did, that sucks. And um, you know personally, I was for Poirier. I think that I'm kind of losing my ground with McGregor. That's just me
Hmm.
personally. I know some people out there are kind of doing the same thing. I think he's getting to the point where he's getting things so personal and hyping him up, and then he's just not able to perform at the level he used to. And that's just how it works, man. You get older and stuff like that. But we'll see. He's gonna come back, and hopefully there is another fight. I would like to see one more. I know usually that doesn't happen. I am myself am starting to get into soccer as well. Honestly, when Tucker made that announcement, I truthfully thought he was going to do something just full on soccer related because of how much he enjoys it so much. And then when he obviously announced what he announced, I thought that was tremendous. But immediately when he's like, "Hey, I got an announcement to make" or whatever, I was like, "He's going to do soccer." I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So, but yeah, and then obviously you had the Royals get rained out. There was so much, and then obviously the draft last night, which I do want to talk to you about. So that's where we're at now. Um, Royals fans immediately. So let me go kind of lead through it. So it's set up perfectly. There's three guys that a lot of people who really just kind of talked about the Royals taking a pick. A lot of those guys were right there. I mean, Royals Farm Report was on live on Twitter. They were getting excited. There were so many people just ecstatic about the pick where we were. And then out of nowhere, Frank, the mozzarella stick, comes to the Kansas City Royals. What were your initial thoughts when they announced Frank coming to the Kansas City Royals?
Man, I like to think that I'm like a not a fair weather MLB fan. Like I like to think I follow pretty close and that I knew at least something about the draft. And then they drafted Frank, and I had to look up who he was. I was like,
Yeah,
I've never heard of this kid. I saw that I think it was Fangraphs had him like 27th to the Padres or whatever it was. So my initial reaction was upset because you have Kumar, you have Watson, you have House, like three of the better players in that draft. You have like it fell perfectly for them. And they're
yes,
like, we'll take this prep pitcher who he very well could have been the best lefty. He very well could have the best curveball. I like Frank. I think he's going to be a good player. There's a really high upside. Like his fastball sits low 90s, but he only weighs 170 pounds, like soaking wet. So he
yeah,
can get that up to maybe 95 or so. There's potential there, and I get the underslot. Maybe they want to get um, a guy that is highly regarded, that has a strong college commitment today, being Monday, obviously. But I don't know. The process I don't get, and then thus the result kind of wavers as a result of that. So Dayton just you can't. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. You can't really preach that you want to compete immediately, but then your first pick is a guy that won't be ready until 2025. Like, you know what I mean? It's just something that
yeah.
definitely a surprise on my end.
Well, I got two things, and I really wanted to get your thoughts on this. So I think a lot of the time, the way the perception is of how an MLB draft goes is kind of misconstrued. And I think people typically think that you can just take the best available, which a lot of the time, you you can, but there's also like how that spot works as far as how they
Mm-hmm.
go about paying for that. So I think when people see the Royals take Mazzucato, they're like, what are we doing? Like he's slotted to go we're here, but like you said, there's a chance you could pull a kid that maybe really committed going to college who really is a good baseball player, and you draw him from like even the second, the third, the fourth round, and you get him to come and you're able to pay him a little bit more to entice him to come to the Royals. I think that's completely different. And some people just don't understand that. And they immediately want to jump because we're already in a frustrating time with the Kansas City Royals. We're struggling ball club. We're seeing our young talent come up and it's just not performing to the best. So then this kind of was just gas on the fire. So um my thoughts on that are, what do you think about that? Do you think some people just aren't understanding of how the draft really works?
There's there's people who don't understand it. There's people who understand it but still ignore it. It's part of the being quote unquote media and like quote unquote covering teams and all that good stuff is like, and I talk about this with people really, really often because they're like, are you a fan of the team still? And you're like, well, you never want to go out and say that you are, but like you can't just beat that out of you 100%. Like there's always going to be that 1% that you want the team to do well, but I think when they lose, you aren't impacted. Like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, obviously every media member wanted them to win, but
Yeah,
when they lost, we were just kind of like, whatever. Like we aren't devastated as some diehard like fans. So the Royals, like, emotion has been a very common theme this year, and Nicky Lopez was the same way. And I will tell people this all the time, and I don't know, Lucas, what your thoughts on Nicky are, but people like when the Royals were struggling and Nicky wasn't playing well, it's Nicky Lopez's fault. Your 9-hole hitter can't be this bad, and you are going to lose ball games. I'm like, there's a list of problems with the Kansas City Royals, and at that point, Nicky Lopez was like pretty low on that list, and now he's playing much, much better baseball. He's maybe factoring into the long-term picture. Like I think what he's hitting right now, like 260 or whatever he is, he's probably that type of hitter, but without the ups and downs moving forward. Like I think he's going to consistently be like this, and I'm fine with that. So
yeah.
it's people, they get their emotions involved in it. It clouds their judgment. We just have to think bigger picture. And like you said, the Royals, is the pick questionable? Yeah, absolutely. But we kind of have to wait and see what they do as results of it before we kind of do that revisionist history type thing.
For sure. And I honestly, I'll admit, last year leading into this year, I wasn't a big Nicky Lopez fan. I just wasn't. But I think after seeing him kind of carry on that mentality of a Whit Merrifield, where I'm going to give it everything I have every single game, I'm going to go out there and play the best I possibly can. I mean, hell, he even went on the Whit Merrifield weight training program.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that he at least wants to give it everything he has. And you started to see some things change. And honestly, I like Nicky Lopez more than Mondi right now just because I think he wants to be here and I think he wants to play, like I said. So I'm definitely a fan of Nicky Lopez now. And I think there's no reason why you don't give him a chance with the way the Royals are playing, anyways. Just keep plugging him out there. And that's the thing with baseball. I mean, anyone would agree. The more you get into a routine, the better you're going to perform. And, I think that's what we're seeing as a perfect example of Nicky Lopez. So my two A, I guess my two B question to that is now we're seeing last night they kind of put out like a highlight draft video for them taking Frank. We're seeing a lot of Lonnie Goldberg, I believe is who it was, and we're seeing a lot of Dayton Moore can't be in every spot at every minute of the time, so he's getting a lot of his draft analysis from obviously his scouts, and they feed into Lonnie. So Lonnie comes out and is giving the full on, like, this is what we believe in him. This is why. I think a lot of people immediately jump on the Dayton Moore like bash train because Dayton Moore's the face. But if we're going to do that, you need to start looking at who's doing that. And I think Lonnie is one of those that we need to evaluate. Like, people are like, well, they can't develop pitching. They can't develop some of their minor leaguers. Well, Dayton is his job is to get those guys, but there's other people that are in place to do that. What are your thoughts of like, Lonnie Goldberg and really him being like a target as well? If you're going to want to fire Dayton, like I think we need to evaluate, some of these other ones. I'm not for firing Dayton by no means right now, but I just think if you're going to go for the top, you need to understand what's below.
100%, and it's the scapegoat mentality that everyone has in sports. They want to pin it on one guy like Nicky Lopez. I wanted to pin the lineup struggling on him. I'm like, he's one player out of 9 in that lineup. So it's one of those things where like I'm like a firm believer in if the team, like even in workplace environments, like if the team's struggling, it starts at the top. Like management's super important. But in baseball, I think the manager spot is overrated. Like I think Mike Matheny, he's not perfect. He's very far from it, but he's not nearly as bad as some people say. I think the position just doesn't have as big of an impact as some people think. Ned Yost was a fantastic guy. He had some good moments, but he also wasn't very good for like a lot of the time he was in KC, and then he had a great team that got him there. Like I think it falls on the players first and foremost, but you look at Cal Eldred, you look at the minor league development, that a lot of those guys look great in the minors and they come up and they look completely overwhelmed. So whatever is happening, Dayton Moore has hired those guys or played a role in hiring those guys, so he deserves some of the blame. Dayton Moore has said the right things and then they've went and lost. Like my thing is like, what do you want him to say? Like fully embrace the rebuild and say we suck, we're gonna be bad. Like the honesty would be nice, but then people would say, well, why aren't they trying harder to win games, all that stuff. So he's screwed either way almost. And I'm not in the fire Dayton camp personally. Like I think give him till the end of next season before that happens. Like see what actually comes out of this whole pitching crop of talent and stuff like that. He's had a couple good drafts. This one hopefully will shape out to be a good one. So it's everyone deserves blame. Like there's a pie of blame, but like you can't just take the whole thing out of the baking sheet or whatever and dump it on one guy. Like you have to slice it up and give a little bit to everybody.
For sure. And I 100% agree with that statement because, I mean, they didn't interview Dayton Moore when they took, I mean, the highlight video was Goldberg, obviously. And so I think that tells you right there who really had the biggest communication with Frank, and that was Lonnie. I mean, that just tells you because he talks about how they really went up into the Northeast and that's a big area for them and stuff like that. So yeah, I 100% agree. Now you did bring up somebody who is also literally sitting on a fire seat, and that is Cal Eldridge. Again, another situation I don't think people understand fully. If we were to go fire Cal Eldridge right now, who's going to fill into his spot? And then who is going to have such a tremendous impact this point in the season that it's going to just change everything? Probably nobody. So, that's kind of been my opinion on Cal Eldridge. You might as well finish out the year. And then obviously, hey, we're going to send you on your way. Nothing's working out the way we thought. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that's one of the things where emotion clouds your judgment. I didn't even entertain that thought of who's going to replace him until you said that, and I'm glad you did because I am fully it's time. Like someone's got to take the blame. The pitching staff has been horrible. I haven't heard one person endorse Cal, so it's probably time for him to go. But at the same time, the season's down the toilet. Like they're not going to be spending much more time calling up different guys. Like, could it help some of the like we just don't know what that situation is. Like, why did these guys come up like a Daniel Lynch or a Jackson Coar and get completely shelled? And granted, they've had some bad moments since they've been sent back down, but their totality of work has been good down there. They look great. So I don't know. I just wish I could be a fly on the wall for some of those conversations. And like, I don't know if it's a mechanical thing that he's telling them to do, or it's he doesn't give them any feedback and they don't feel prepared, like what it is. And it's weird that because you can't like straight up go ask that to Mike Matheny or Dayton Moore and be like, what the heck's going on? But at the end of the season, I think the Royals are going to do the typical Royals thing. They're going to say, I wish Cal the best. He was great for us, blah, blah, blah. That's just business. But finding a replacement is just as hard as keeping the guy that isn't quite doing the job. So like even the Chiefs with Alex Smith. Now, granted, Cal's doing a way, 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 way worse job. Alex was a good quarterback in Kansas City, but everyone said, oh, the Chiefs need to, trade for a better quarterback, get a better quarterback. Can you find one? Like, can you find one that is guaranteed to be better than the one you have. And that's kind of where the Chiefs are at with Cal, where you can promote somebody. Perhaps you can have a by committee, just like bring some guy in to do it for the rest of the year, but it's probably worth just writing it out and then dealing with it at the end of the year.
For sure, and I think that's probably going to be the best result, anyways, unless it just goes absolutely dumpster fire and like Brady Singer obviously is already, a bulldog on the mound, and maybe he's just like, Cal, you're literally worthless. You're not telling me anything, because it does look like when he goes out to mound visits, it looks like he's intimidated. I mean, the only person I think he feels comfortable talking to at times is Mike Minor, and that's just because he doesn't give him any pushback. But there's times where he goes out there and he just don't. Salvy's the one's talking. I mean,
Yeah.
that's legitimately what you're seeing. So I do think it's time. I think one thing that they should evaluate is how those pitchers are really developing in the minor leagues. And I know that's always been hit on as a big thing, but I mean, a perfect example is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay obviously is, if you go back and look where they're at salary base wise, they're literally at the very bottom, but they continuously push out good pitching staffs. And, you're starting to see that with the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers draft two really good up and coming pitchers. They draft Job last night, then they take in the comp round, Ty Montgomery. So, that right there. Plus, they've taken all those other guys beforehand. Lang from LSU, who was a local kid from Lee Summit. I mean, you see Casey Mize coming there from the number one overall pick, and then they've really done some good things with pitching. So I think it's just something that the Royals really need to evaluate, and hopefully that gets ironed out. I really do. So that leads to the next thing, and we're getting close to the trade deadline. And I think that with it being so close to the trade deadline, is there anybody, like, if you had to pick one player you feel is just gonna go, who are you going with?
Who I want to go or who will like most likely to go?
Okay, yeah, let's do both. So first off, let's do who you want to go.
Man, I'm almost like team fire sale at this point. Like Benintendi, I think he's worth keeping long term because he's been good, but also he's going to command a chunk of change. So if the depth in the minors in the outfield isn't great, so that's probably one position where I'd be fine paying him. You can't trade Mondesi. Like, he's always injured, so I don't even know what the rule is if you can trade currently injured players, whatever that is, but or guys who are on the IL. He doesn't have any trade value. Like, great player when he's healthy, inconsistently great. Like, he had immense struggles for a lot of recent seasons. So he's a guy that, knowing the Royals, they would trade him. And then like the year he gets traded, he like never gets injured again and like wins like everything. Like MVP, just wins the batting title, leads the team to the World Series somehow. Like, that's the type of thing the Royals would have happen to them. He's arbitration eligible soon, or already is. I don't know the process with that, or the timeline rather. Still, 26 years old? Just write it out. Like, don't count on him to be there, but whatever he can contribute's better. And also with that, you can't move him to center field. That's a physically taxing position. Like, if the people who say, oh, just move him out to center field and let him play, I'm like, there's a wall in center field. Like, if he crashes into that one time, he's donezo. Like, if he dives and lays out for a ball, we saw Lorenzo Cain always looked like he was injured. Like, even when he played, he would like walk in the outfield. He would go over to first base and start messing around with himself. Like, he always looked like he was dealing with something. And that's the thing with Mondesi. I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but
you're fine.
I think there's a difference between being hurt and playing through like being sore or something. And I don't want to accuse Mondesi of not doing that or knowing the difference, but you can listen to your body and still be able to play through. Like, I bet Whit Merrifield has never ever been 100% at this point in the season. Like, no one is. You're always dealing with something. He's a gamer. Nicky Lopez fouled a ball off his foot, stuff like that. It seems like Mondesi's out for stuff like that. Minor wrist injuries, little finger twitches, whatever, jam your finger. It just sucks because he's so talented. But don't trade him, obviously. Now, the Whit Merrifield conversation, they could have gotten more for him a couple years ago. He's rebounded this season to where his stock is right where it has been before, pretty much, in terms of the past couple of years. If you trade him, though, My thing is, I'm fine with trading him because the timeline may not necessarily match up. You don't know how well he's going to age. I think he'll age like a Zobrist, where he's still a good player for 3 or 4 more years. But
Yeah.
do we trust Dayton Moore to like execute a good trade for a good player? Like I frankly don't. And you can trade Salvador Perez. Like that's not going to happen. He's one of the few that I would put my foot down and be like, you're not getting rid of him. Danny Duffy, I get it, but don't think it's going to happen. And now he's that 10-year mark, so he can start vetoing trades. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. So Dyson's not going to fetch you anything. Michael A. Taylor's not going to fetch, like the Royals. Jorge Soler isn't going to fetch you anything. No one wants Hunter Dozier. So they kind of had their hands tied behind their back. Like they could part with a couple bullpen pieces, maybe if they wanted to. But the main fish here, the big fish in the pond, is either Merrifield or probably Benintendi, and I don't think they're going to end up trading either one.
And that's kind of been my thought is I think that I really never even thought, because of how much we went out, and ideally, if you look, we gave up a chunk to get Benintendi here, even though it really hasn't panned out even for Boston. But in all honesty, I think I would be okay with that. And you got guys down in the minors. The whole reason why you do what you do is because you want to develop guys and bring them up. We're not going to spend a ton of money. So are we even going to be able to pay Benintendi the money he wants? Because I started kind of looking around thinking, how much could he honestly command? And I do think there's a chance he's going to be in the 90 to 100, depending on, how well the rest of this year plays out. There's a chance he could get that. Are the Royals going to be able to pay for that? That's a question. And then, if he is, you might as well take him and trade him when you can on a high note. With Mondesi, I definitely am one of those ones that is stick him in center field. The reason I am on that is because we haven't truly seen a real productive full season from him anyways. So you might as well see what you got. My ideal spot for Mondesi is going to be third base. Just from understanding, like, it's a fast twitch. He's very good at that. His response, reaction, and everything is very good. I think there's a lot less risk at third base, even though, there's a lot more hit to you. But I would like to see him play third base. I think he's got the arm for it, the mobility for it. It'd just be interesting because you got Bobby Witt coming up. I still think you can have that duo there, but it's tough. It's tough. You have a lot of guys that are coming up in the minors. I mean, if you look at our double A and just double A alone, we have some studs. Like Prado is in the futures game. Bobby Witt is hitting a ball 113 miles an hour on an absolute line and is like, man, I need to hit the weight room, like jokingly, of course, but dude is a monster. So you got guys coming. I just hope that we don't make the mistake of holding on to guys too long and maybe just getting some pieces and seeing what you got on the fringe. Like, is Kyle Isbell going to be a part of this future? Or, you keep sending up and down Oliveras. Like, what is his future going to be? So some of these guys, I just hope once this pans out, we'll see them for long term and really what they can do. So, I'm excited. I'm an optimist for the Royals. I will always be an optimist. I always have been, even when we were losing 100 games in, the 90s and the early 2000s. So yeah, I'm always going to be an optimist, but it definitely sucks right now. And most people would agree, man. What are your thoughts on, as far as some of these younger guys coming up? Like, who are you most excited for? Obviously Bobby Witt, but if there's someone else, who are you most excited for?
Yeah, man. Like the best case scenario is an infield of like some combination of Mondesi and Bobby Witt, Lopez at second if he keeps hitting this way. I think Gold Glove caliber defender, like you can live with him in your 9-hole.
Yeah.
Prado at first. Salvi's still catching probably in 2 years. I think he'll still be there. That might be one of his last years. Is he 31? I think.
I'd have to definitely double check. 31 or 32 for sure.
Okay, so he's probably got maybe 2 more years, maybe even 3. Like I think the year off for him and then the COVID season have helped preserve his body quite a bit, which I'm perfectly fine with. Like with the team being as bad as it is, his defense has always been a little bit overrated. Like one heck of an arm, but framing has never been his thing. So if the bat can remain how it has been, I'm totally cool with that. He's going to shatter his career record in home runs. So the infield, I'm not really worried about. Brady McConnell has been developing. They've been putting him in the outfield some, and I'm excited to see how that goes. They drafted Lofton last year. I think Lofton's going to be fun. The pitching, they have good arms. Jonathan Bolin, Alec Marsh, the guys that don't always get talked about. Very
Yeah.
excited for. Witt, man, Witt could play right field and be like that Ben Zobrist for the next few years. So I think one of your outfield spots could go to him. I think that they really need Eric Pena. I think that
Yes.
he's obviously years and years away, but he has so much raw ability that I think
Yeah.
he's going to be great. They drafted, I think his name's Daryl Collins. He was an international prospect, and I was reading some about him. I'm excited about him in the outfield. So there's just a lot of projection going on with them. Obviously, Bobby Witt is extremely exciting. Like at first, even earlier this season, I was like, man, I don't know about the hype. Like I think he's going to be good, but he strikes out a lot. Like it seems too good to be true. Like there's a Mahomes-esque quality and that you can look at guys and like tell that they're future like star level players, and just the way he conducts himself, like that guy's going to be really, really good. And
Yeah.
he does all the right things. He's really mature for his age. The hype is warranted. I don't care if he strikes out a lot. He's going to be one of the better players in Major League Baseball. He's going to be the face of the franchise. So I'm very excited for him. And I think that, man, you make a good point about Mondesi being in center field. Like, if he's going to get hurt anyway, you might as well maximize his value while he's healthy, and kind of he has the power to play pretty much even third base. Like his raw power is still really impressive. So I just feel so bad for him because I like him a lot. Great
Yeah.
player when healthy. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
Just can't stay healthy. And I don't know if it's one of those things where, like Kane, he's going to figure it out and then get 1 day off a week or 2 days off a week or whatever. But the future of the team is bright. I think they just have to, it relies on projection. And that's a scary thing. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of certainty with that team, but it's also gives some hope for the future, I think.
For sure. I was going to definitely ask you about this because this kind of has a vibe to me like NBA in a way where you are drafting kids. I say kids, but you're drafting players based on potential. And obviously, that's a lot of what MLB is, but that's honestly the vibe I'm getting from the Kansas City Royals organization is you're seeing some players really develop. You're seeing them do well in spots that they're supposed to do well, but you're hoping that they do well once they get to that top elite level. I mean, we see that in the NBA all the time with guys that are coming from overseas or, they're drafting when they could draft out of high school, they were drafting them out of high school and they're like, oh, we hope this plays out, but we're seeing the potential. I'm kind of getting that vibe. Does that make sense? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the direction of the franchise, like the NBA is weird and it's different than baseball, and even the NFL is the same way because those guys produce a lot more immediately. They're thrown into the fire. Like there's not that whole minor league tier system in the NBA. Like even guys that there will be guys that go top 10 this year that have a ton of growing to do, but still
Yeah.
play like 15 minutes a night, 20 minutes a night their rookie year. In the MLB, you draft a guy like Mazzucato, he won't see the MLB. It's like 2024, 2025, a guy that will just take forever. And that doesn't mean he's bad. It just means that there is a process that takes several years, like 4 years to produce.
Yeah.
So I like it. I mean, if they knew that they were going to be a team that would contend like next year and only for the next few years, maybe you take more college arms that can, like an Asa Lacy, that could come in and potentially fill that, fit the timeline. But for them, like with Sherman being there, they have said time and time again they want to not do the 2014-15 thing where they're just putting all their eggs in one basket for one thing. And like even it's so hard to win a World Series that the odds of that ever happening again extremely low. Like you'd rather have a ton of chances at it and get there 8 out of 10 years or something, or 5 out of 7, something like that. So if they build that and draft, they have a good mix of guys who will come up this year, come up next year, be good for a long time. Like it's not also like the NBA where you have a 4 year rookie contract or you sign a guy for 1 year. It's sustainable, and I think that's the word that the Royals been trying to use probably as well, is just build a sustainable 85 to 90 win team, and that's realistic, but they just have work to do for that.
For sure. So I kind of I kind of asked this question for a reason. And I'm hoping that this is exciting for you because I am excited for this and I just hope it happens. What do you think we'll see first? Another Royals World Series or an NBA team in Kansas City?
Man, that is tough. I think we're gonna see an NBA team in Kansas City, and I hate to say that. I think that really, I think one of those will happen within the next 10 years. So I guess it's just which one do I think is more likely to happen at that point? And man, I think the Royals are going to be it's just so freaking hard to win a World Series, and they could even get there but not win. They could go to the ALCS 3 times and not win a World Series. So they can have a good team for 5 out of those 7 years, or 8 out of those 10, 10 out of those 10, and still not win one. Like, it's that hard. But with the rumblings of NBA to Kansas City, the city has been trying to prove that they can support one. They have the venue for it waiting. If they wanted to do it at the Sprint Center, I think that'd be fine. Um, I just I don't know what the probability is. And if you sat down and like had some mathematical model, it's probably more likely that the Royals would win a World Series within that time frame. But I just have a weird gut feeling that NBA to KC is eventually going to be a thing. And dude, I'm going to be stoked. Like I'm going to get season tickets if I'm not
Yeah.
able to cover it. Like, I'm going to be absolutely excited. And I think that there's a legit possibility.
I started doing some research. I saw some rumblings, and I'm going to do a video to the Pelicans coming to Kansas City. And I know that we're kind of third on the list when it comes to getting an NBA team for like specifically the Pelicans. I know
Yep.
that Seattle's obviously there, Las Vegas wants one, and then kind of Kansas City filters in right there at the end of that. I would be all for it. So then I started doing research, and the Sprint Center, the slash T-Mobile Center, is right around the same size as the Staples Center, and even like Madison Square Garden. I mean, you're talking very equivalent when it comes to supporting an NBA team. So that kind of caught me off guard. I really didn't expect that. And then I was going in and kind of doing some research on the T-Mobile Center itself, and it's like one of the fifth most active stadiums arenas in the entire United States, which really blew me away because I was like, well, that makes sense. Concerts and all kinds of different things before they had the Monster Jam there until they moved it to Arrowhead. So I think that and just the environment around there, obviously, it'd be very cool. So I'm pulling for it. I think it would be incredible. I think it would just be really, I mean, if the Pelicans came, I mean, Zion's still a part of that team as of right now. I know you're talking, but man, that'd be incredible just to have something like that. Because I remember when the Penguins were originally rumored to come to Kansas City. I mean, think about that. You would have Sidney Crosby playing in Kansas City for a while. So I'm a big hockey fan too. I hope we start getting some of these sports here because I think Kansas City would support it. I really do. And it would be another way, like when the Royals are down, it'd be give other people something to talk about as well.
Well, and dude, you like the college basketball experience is connected to the building. Like, you have the restaurants across the street. You're semi close, like Power and Light, the Plaza, all that stuff. If you really wanted to, the streetcar has been gaining a lot of traction. Like, they have the I Heart Kansas City sign outside. Like, you have those like NBA 2K cutscenes, and like it fits that whole thing. Like, it is a good location for it. Um, I don't think the Royals are going to go downtown, and like the lease runs for however long, 10 more years, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But man, it just makes sense. Like the NBA 2KC, I think they can support it. It would be interesting to like cities can handle NBA, MLB, and NFL. Like, it's not unheard of. So it would just be interesting to see how they could handle that. The fan support would be crazy. I think if
Yeah.
there's one thing Kansas City has proven, it's that they have good fans. Especially a team like the Pelicans. Like, what better way to break in an NBA team than like an up and coming Zion led Pelicans team that like
Yeah.
everyone loves? It's hard to hate Zion. He's such an exciting player. I think it's a great idea, and I just wish it would happen. I have a list of things like I really want to happen in my lifetime, and that's one of them. And I think there's a legit shot. Like, I know that Vegas I get because of the tourist attraction or whatever,
Yeah.
just people constantly filtering in and out, but also hard to get a loyal fan base in something like that. Seattle, they deserve it. Like, if Seattle got it before KC, I'd totally understand. They need a team back. But selfishly, Like we need to get on that. And Adam Silver kind of get something going to Kansas City.
Yeah, that I would be all for it too, man. I think it would generate a lot of hype. It really would, and I think that there's a lot of people that want it. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I've paid more attention to people who really kind of are in the NBA. I mean, you were one of them for sure. I started seeing how much you talk about it. My brother-in-law lives in Surprise, Arizona, is a huge Suns fan. That's all we talked about the last couple of times I've seen him. So that right there created enough attention. And I'm a huge KU Jayhawk fan. So constantly, getting players to go to the NBA, you want to keep up with them. So yeah, I think that would be, it would just be tremendous to have an NBA team for sure, man. Well, Jordan, I appreciate you coming on. This was yet again incredible. I'm hoping we can continue to do this because I have so much fun every time you and I talk. There's so much that we could continue to talk about. Like we didn't even touch on the Chiefs. So man, I really do appreciate your time. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity as usual. And if you want to give everyone listening, because I didn't say this in the beginning, kind of where they can find you, just so they can check out your Twitter handle and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at Footnoted. That's FOOTENOTED. I do NBA stuff. I do MLB stuff. Potentially soon, NFL stuff. I might do some KU Jayhawks stuff. Like that's one thing that I don't know I could cover because I just fan out so hard. I love at least the basketball team. Obviously, football just ugh, but basketball, man, it's going to be an exciting year. And I went to Arizona State my freshman year, and Remy Martin was there when that happened. He was that must have been his freshman year too. So experiencing him in person, then coming back to Kansas City, now him going to KU this year, like he is what they need, I think. Self has gotten some good transfers. Like I didn't get the whole notion that, oh, KU had an off year, so Self's never going to be able to recruit with the investigation. I'm like, Self's going to get whatever Self wants. Like the Jayhawks are going to be fine. An off year for KU's like a top 25 team that still was in contention for the Big 12, like whatever. They're going to be great this year. Like this is a legit Final Four like level team, I think, on paper. He has like two lineups he can go to. Like he can sub out 5 for 5 if he wants to. It's going to be insane. So man, thank you for having me on, and I think that we'll have to work some Chiefs and Jayhawks in next time we talk.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. And we're going to be getting closer and closer to obviously training camp, and then other things are going to start evolving. We're getting to that fall time. I mean, it's getting to be that exciting time in sports. So again, I appreciate you coming on, man. And you guys know how I close this out, how I wrap this out. As always, I appreciate you checking out the Beat of KC, and have a good day.